Welcome in to the Punt and Pass podcast. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined alongside by my co-host, Jake Fromm. Be sure to follow us on social media. We are at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at From Jake, puntandpass.com, and the Punt and Pass YouTube page for all things college football. The offseason interview series rolls on, and we have a very, very special guest joining us this week. He is a friend of mine. He is a colleague of mine. I like to call him the most popular man among parents of high school football players in the country. None other than my man, Rusty Mansell, is in Punt and Pass. Rusty, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm the most popular until rankings come out. So that's why I no longer am involved with rankings. But the 9th and 10th grade parents, they love me. The juniors and seniors, I kind of fall off at that point.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
I love it. Well, let's put some respect on your name because you're doing so much now. You are, of course, the co-owner and publisher of DawgsHQ, which is the Georgia site in the On3 network. We're going to ask you a ton about that. You, of course, are a colleague of mine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game in Atlanta on the Steakhouse. You can see Rusty weekly on Fox 5 Atlanta for their official coverage of the Georgia Bulldogs. He's also the co-chairman of the Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame. And I had to check this, but you're big time on X, man. You have 145,000 followers on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can find Rusty at Rusty Mansell _. So Rusty, a man who wears many hats, but you're so good at all of them. I guess I'll just start out by saying, walk me through kind of your path to get where you are today. I was in high school 2007 was my senior year, and I don't feel like I remember Chad Simmons. When Chad Simmons showed up to school, Chad Simmons used to show up to school, Rusty, that was a big day. That was a big day. Walk us through how you got to where you are right now, because everybody knows what you do around high school and college football.
Well, I'll go glory days for 1 second, and played on a state championship high school football team. And really, I think I'm a product of Georgia high school football. I wasn't a college prospect. I was a good player with I loved the game of high school football. It never left me. And, just winning that, going through that my senior year, all my buddies I grew up with. I tell these kids all the time, we were 0-10 my freshman year. We were 15-0 my senior year. Same kids, no move-ins, no nothing. We just went to work and found a way. So it never kind of left me. I go to college, I get in the corporate world. It never really kind of left me. And then I think in 2005, I had a guy that got a job at scout.com, and he called me one day. He said, "Hey, look, man, I know you love recruiting. I know you follow it. Would you be interested in doing any?" I said, "Dude, before the next word comes out, yes." Like, what are we talking about here? So I didn't kind of know what he meant by that. It was an unpaid deal. And for basically, I would say 2 years, I would go around to the Under Armour camps and I would just chart 40s. And kind of into your senior year, Drew, there, I think the first time that I went to Peachtree Ridge as a quote unquote employee, I went to see Bradley Roby.
Yeah.
And so it was right in behind you. And I remember, I just kept doing it and kept doing it. And I just loved it and couldn't get enough of it. And certainly Chad Simmons was the guy, built a relationship with him. I actually started a company with him later on, and a close personal friend of mine. So he has been doing it a long time. But I remember one day, Scott Kennedy, who was longtime director at scout.com, Fox Sports, when Fox owned Scout, he walked up to me and said, "You really like this, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "We're going to give you a paid opportunity part-time." I said, "Cool, man." And somewhere in one of these drawers, I got a copy of it. I got a check. My first check was for like $91. And I remember going, "Boys, I've made it. Like, don't talk to me. I get paid to watch high school football, man." So it kind of started from there. And then Shannon Terry called me in January of 2010. He said, "Who are you? Been watching your work. Kind of tell me about yourself." And he goes, "Look, I can't tell you about a company I'm about to start. I'm going to call you back in May." And I thought, well, that was weird. Can't tell me what's going on. I know he sold Rivals 3 years ago. What's this guy doing? So he calls me back. Sure enough, in May, he goes, "Hey, I'm about to start a company called 24/7. I want to bring you up to Nashville, interview you, see what you think." And I go up and I sat down in the room with him, man. And I guess 16 years later, I have been with him on every move from 24/7 to on 3. It kind of started that day, man. And it was a life-changing conversation. I got a full-time opportunity. I left a very successful corporate job. When you have to look your wife and 2 small kids in the eye and go, look, I'm walking away from a company 401k. I'm walking away from this to go to a startup internet company. I had a few people in my close circle say, don't do it, but I trusted my gut, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, that's awesome, Rusty, because you were with 247, I guess, when I was coming up through. And yeah, man, like that whole recruiting process, I always felt so at ease with you. And I feel like you, like without you being there and kind of coaching me and especially coaching my parents through the process, like, man, that whole experience was just much better than it could have been. So I'm very glad and very thankful there's guys like you out there that are doing this, that are involved, that are hands-on. You know, obviously you mentioned the freshmen and the sophomore parents, they love you, but the juniors and the seniors, they hate you. But building those relationships with parents, I think is very important, because there is a lot of different information out there. And a lot of things can be said, but man, having a level head that's been through the ringer multiple times, that has deep relationships like you do, I just think that's really, really important.
That was the best part of it, Jake, was the relationships. You know what I mean? Thousands of phone calls with your dad, just shoot the crap, or sometimes ask me questions. I'll never forget him calling me the night before you flipped, and he goes, look, he's going to Georgia. And I was like, oof, okay, when are we breaking this? But it's the relationships, man. And I got to meet your whole family. I got to basically document your whole recruitment all the way up. Got a chance to watch you in high school. Matter of fact, I was looking through some pictures. I got a file I keep for a book one day. I was standing there at the intramural field when Kirby Smart pulled up on that golf cart and put you in the cart with DeAndre Swift. It was about 200,000 degrees that day.
Oh, yeah.
That June, but I've got that picture. I guess the first time you ever met him personally, I got the picture of you shaking his hand. I'll give it to you one day. But those moments for me, I was a parent first. I was like, these kids are going through a lot. Listen, it's a different landscape now, but those about 14 years of just relationships and kids, and those were the best part of it, man. That has been the most enjoyable to watch guys get from nothing to the NFL, man. It's been awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Especially getting to see where some guys come from.
I did trust
sure.
me.
I definitely remember that day you're talking about at that camp over there at the intramural field. And I definitely remember meeting DeAndre Swift's dad. If you're not familiar, this guy is jacked and huge. So I was like, man, I'm never crossing your son. So don't you worry about that.
Yeah, Swift's dad was a fixture in the stands. Those cameras always knew where he was, because he would get pretty viral on social media in relatively short order. Rusty, I want to go back to Shannon Terry, a guy who's meant a lot to you. I probably would assume that a lot of our listeners and viewers know who Shannon Terry is. He started Rivals.com. That was a big winner. Then he starts 247 Sports. That was a big winner. Now he's on to On 3. On 3 has been absolutely crushing it. When you get an opportunity to go up to Nashville and meet a guy like him who is building something that you want to be a part of, and now, as you said, fast forward 16 years later, you're still working for him. You're totally right. You leave that corporate job with a company 401k. You have 4 daughters. You tell your wife, hey, I'm leaving for a startup. You had to have pretty good conviction in a guy like Shannon Terry, and that's obviously worked out so far.
Man, I prayed. I remember pulling into the parking lot the day I was going to turn my notice in. And I said, God, please let me be making the right decision. I'm trusting you. I'm trusting myself. This is a lifelong dream. It was a great opportunity on paper. But, man, I knew I was walking into I worked at Pirelli Tires. I mean, a worldwide name, and it was a great opportunity. I was a small-level manager, had a great job. I could retire there in 30 years and the American dream kind of, But I knew shortly after, I was like, this is what I was born to do. I love this. I can't – what am I doing? In fact, it's almost like I would imagine, now not comparing myself to military, but when you're in that world and you're so structured, and then you come back to the free world kind of, and you're used to that. I remember sitting around that first summer going, what am I doing? Like, there's nothing going on. I need to be doing something. We don't have a meeting or anything. I remember Shannon told me, he said, listen, I'm not going to call you for 90 days. Just go out, see some kids, take some pictures, and I'll call you in a couple of months. When the website wasn't even up. So I literally got in the car in the state of Georgia, and I just started driving. I just started going to see kids and trying to introduce them to what 24/7 was. And everybody looked at me like, "What is that?" You know. And then by the time Jake come around, you know, I felt like we were the company. We were definitely we had street cred, and we were heavily involved in that world by the time Jake's class came through. But man, those first couple of years, man, I went to see. Here's a little trivia question: the first kid I went to see. I went to Pierce County High School to see Quavon Hicks.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the first kid I ever saw at 24/7 in that 2010 class. And then I left there and went down to Camden to see Bryce Ramsey and JJ Green and all those guys. It was about 290 degrees. It was August the 1st. And then I learned the lesson of going to Camden County in August. That was my first rookie mistake. I about died on the field that day.
Okay, so I don't want to age you, but real quick, walk me through the chronological order of, you know, these sites, because I'm trying to think back when I was in school, 03 to 07, Rivals and Scout, right?
They were.
Tell me what was before that. Was it just magazines? I mean,
it was magazines. So there used to be a show called Forrest Davis. This is really what got me hooked. There was a show in the 90s called Forrest Davis. He would come on Saturday morning on like Comcast Sports South or whatever, and he would get a magazine that would come out in like September. And you think about this now, you laugh about it, but he would come out with like his top 150 prospects in the South and the schools that they like. So you would take that magazine in September and you would just have that until the kids signed in February. Then they started these 1-800 lines. I met a guy one time. I met a dude one time that had a 1-800 number. And he told me in January and December and January, back before the internet started, this guy was making $50,000 a month for people. Oh my
gosh. Just leaving people, like recorded voicemails?
Leaving recorded voice, like Jake Fromm hosted, you know, Kirby Smart tonight. Things went well. Jake's going to take it over. I mean, literally, man.
Incredible.
He told me when the .com world, he goes, I remember looking at my wife going, it's over because you could get internet that quick. And so, Rivals and Scout were there. But before that, it was called Alliance Sports, and Shannon started Rivals. And I've often asked Shannon, you know, what made you decide this? And he said he was, you know, he's living in Nashville. He's an Alabama fan. He couldn't get daily notes about practice. Now you would get a weekly note or something at the end of the week. And he was like, why can't we put somebody on there and take it straight to the web? And for long, they were like, wait a minute, this will work everywhere. So it literally took off with an idea, him and 3 or 4 buddies. And here we are 35 years later, it's still rolling.
That's pretty wild. Back in 2010, what did your day-to-day look like? And then after 15, 16 years in the business, what does your day-to-day look like now?
Definitely different now. Back then, because we were building so much data, you couldn't use anybody's photograph. So, you know, I was having to go out and introduce myself because I didn't. One of the funny stories I tell, I remember calling Rance Gillespie. He was the head coach at Valdosta, where they had Malcolm Mitchell and Jay Rome. They were in that 2011 class. Yeah. And I remember calling Rance Gillespie, and now we laugh about it. But Rance is like, what's your name? Who do you work for?
What are you doing?
He's like, what? I was like, Coach, I'm down here in South Georgia. Can I just come by, take a couple of pictures of those guys?
You're coming to take pictures of kids.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
In a jersey. Oh, by the way, can you put them in a jersey? So he's like, look, man. All right, dude, just come by. We're in the middle of camp. This was in August now. They're in the middle of camp. I go by. And it's like 11:30. Nobody wants me there. It's 11:30 in the morning. I can't find him. Dude, I literally walk in the Valdosta gym at 11:30, probably 11:35 on like a Monday morning. I yank the door open, Jake. The whole damn team is asleep. It's a 3-day camp down there they're having. The whole damn team raises up and like,
no way.
What? I was like, oh my God, dude. So I shut the door. I went down there, you know, eventually I got Jay and Malcolm to come down. And Malcolm, he didn't talk much in high school at all. And you know, he talks about his shyness and where he comes from. But I remember I drove down there many, many times to interview Malcolm Mitchell, and you just forget it. You were going to get 3 or 4 words. Now, Jay would talk. So Jay was a good interview. But, that was one of my first experiences. Rance laughs about it now, but my God, I opened the door and woke the whole damn Valdosta team up.
Okay, so speaking about that, what year was that? 2011, and you're traveling down there, and I want you to kind of go through how many miles you'd put on your car in a given year around the state of Georgia, because I know it's got to be tremendous. But one step further to that question is, how much change have you seen or experienced in just your profession? Because I'm thinking about, one, social media. I mean, when you started, Twitter was not a thing. The internet was just kind of getting going. 2, Huddle, the available tape on demand that kids have and that they pepper you on social media with. Of course, name, image, and likeness in the transfer portal, and, that trickling down to high school athletes. I just think you are in such an interesting spot because your profession specifically, Rusty, has seen so much change over the last, call it 10 years.
I would say, let's just go back to, let's use Jake as a centerpiece, obviously, because I think Jake was really in that piece of, it was prime time. There was still a lot of value in the relationships. And, one of my funnest things, I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute, one of the funnest things I would ever do is I get to call a kid and invite him to the U.S. Army All-American game. I got to spend the whole week. We own the rights to that when I worked for 24/7. So I remember sitting on the bus one day with Jake and Tua. They were sitting right behind me. And I remember them having discussions. And those were the fun times, man. You get to me and Derek Brown and Ben Cleveland eating about 300 ice cream sandwiches one night in the players lounge in San Antonio, those things. But so you fast forward and you think, okay, back then the value was you built a relationship and then you documented that kid's recruitment all the way up to when he committed. And, and the value to the customer was like, what is going on? And there was a line there that I couldn't cross. And that was just me. I think Chad Simmons still operates the same way. My philosophy was I never was taking a kid's moment. Now I could write things and say, listen, Jake Fromm's listening to Georgia. I don't know how this thing's going to play out, but Georgia's going to take a swing at him, with me knowing that Jake eventually was probably going to flip. I wasn't going to take his moment, but you got to give and take a little bit until those things happen. Nowadays, it's a different world. It used to be a lot of value in breaking a story of kids and breaking the commitments and all that. Now, those kids just DM Hayes Fawcett. Hayes gets a graphic ready, and when Hayes breaks the graphic, we got to call get the quotes and those type of things. Listen, I don't want to sound old. It's just a different world. I operate a little bit different. So now in my business, I don't have those relationships as much. I still enjoy watching the kids compete and giving my advice when they reach out to me. But it's just a different world, man. And now the value for someone like Rusty Mansell is I have to tell the people at DawgsHQ, listen, Georgia's got a real shot here, or Texas Tech is getting this kid. I mean, sometimes I'll just say, they don't want to hear that, but listen, I know what's going on around this one. Don't get your hopes up.
So talk to me about recruiting and the conversations that you would have with kids and with parents and what was important, let's just say 5 years ago, 10 years ago, into like what's important now, like what is moving the needle for these kids and these families, these parents, to go say, hey, I'm either going to go to Georgia or, for example, Texas Tech?
Well, and listen, people have different, Jake, this because and Drew too now, both of you guys have been in situations in high school where kids grew up in different settings. NFL people grew up in different settings. You don't ever know what's going on behind the scenes. So I don't ever really rip a kid when I find out I know why they went. The kid's got a single mom. I see what's going on there. I will say this, and this is the one part that worries me as a dad, as a parent of young people. When I would call Jake Fromm, I'll give you a great example. I remember calling Jordan Jenkins, who was the number 1 player in the state of Georgia in the class of 2012, one of the sharpest kids I've ever met. I remember interviewing him after his Georgia visit. He was going to Alabama. Kirby had him, basically a private commitment. Georgia did a good job of flipping him. Georgia he wanted to be an engineer, and Georgia didn't have that engineering department. They took about 3 professors, and they sat down with his family and laid out an academic path for him. They spent a whole day with him academically. Wow. And listen, I remember calling them going, damn, Jordan, this is good, but did you see the weight room or anything? I need something. I can't write a story about how did you like, but what I'm saying? I don't do those interviews anymore. I haven't had a kid tell me, guys, in 3 or 4 years, probably man, I love the tutors that I met, or I love the program. It's just a different world. I don't want to sound like that guy, but it is definitely a one-sided road. I've got to get to the NFL. I've got to get as much as I can. it's just a different deal, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to that point, the transfer from Ohio State to Notre Dame when spring practice started, they asked him, Jake, did you see this? They asked him,
I did see this clip.
What's the biggest difference from Ohio State to Notre Dame? He said, I actually have to go to class. That's what he said. He's like, everything was online at Ohio State. That's crazy. Real quick, Rusty, off the top of your head, how many miles, 12 months would you drive?
And I need make, model, and year of this vehicle as well.
So I know when I traded it in, and I'll say this too, though, because Drew, you know my daughter, and Jake, I know Kaylee. I spent a ton of time with her playing a lot of travel sports. I had my two oldest daughters in a lot of travel sports, and then I wound up coaching a little league team at one point. So I did all that. So add that in. But I remember trading in a 2012 Ford Expedition. I mean, it was the best vehicle I ever had, but it was fully loaded, had the little flip down TV and all that thing. But I drove that thing. I remember trading in at 291,000 miles on that thing. And there was a lot. Listen, there was dirt from every practice field, every softball field, every practice field in South Georgia. This was before turf. So I drove all over. I think the most that I ever did in 1 year on paper was probably around 31,000.
Wow, dude, that's
don't do it. Now it's so much DM.
Sure.
Talk to those kids. I still like when the calendar for June flips, because I like to go see, Houston County 7-on-7. I like to go see Cartersville 7-on-7. And the reason I like that is those high school coaches are actually coaching ball. You know what I mean? It's not not a damn trick play where it's third down and they got a guy that runs a damn arrow route 1 yard over the center and there's nobody there. You just kind of
what's the intent of the 7 on? Is it to win this silly game that we're playing, or is it to get better for the fall? So that always would grind our gears during all these 7-on-7 tournaments. It's like, hold on, wait a minute. Why is that play even in? You're never going to run that in an actual game.
If I remember, you didn't do much. I don't think you did any travel. I think you did all Houston County. I know Trevor was the first kid I know that was offered money to do like a full sponsorship. And he's like, I'm not doing 7-on-7 unless it's got my Cartersville teammates.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's kind of been my philosophy too. There is value that now I will say with 7-on-7 too, it's better than just sitting at home. You know what I mean? Like these guys, they're out getting reps and all that. But if you think you're going to get a college scholarship off that highlight that you got 11 interceptions this weekend, it's zero chance.
So Russell,
you go to a camp and run, and you go to a camp and run, and you got some good video there and do that, and you got a verified height and weight, 10 times the opportunity to get a scholarship.
So tell me about that, because when I was coming up, I always thought that 7-on-7 could be like the next, the way travel ball baseball is. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not as familiar with high school 7-on-7. You are. Is it like that now? Is it starting to get there? Like how close are we to like full on leagues and tournaments and
it's there. It's 100 like this weekend, Jake. If you were to sit down with me for 2 hours and we had a roster and I go, that kid's from LA, that kid's from Austin, Texas, that team's from Tampa. Crazy. It's not like it wasn't a bunch of kids from Macon playing a bunch of kids from Cartersville. All these kids flew in. And the dad part of me I'm like, okay, they brought 22 kids from LA to Atlanta this weekend.
Crazy.
We're in Peachtree Ridge, was in close to Atlanta Airport. Old man Rusty thinking, damn, how much did that shuttle cost to get them here?
Like, who's footing this bill?
Yeah, I mean, you got 3 nights of hotels, you got 22 kids, you got meals, you got flights. I'm thinking that it's just in my mind alone, just easy, just Floyd County math. I was like, that's $25,000 minimum.
Yeah, for sure.
Baseball, you can get by with 12 to 15 guys.
Yes. I mean, and you can stay in these, and you're fortunate enough here because the state of Georgia is the mecca.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I had 2 summers in a row, like 13, 14, 15 years old. Yeah. And I mean, I basically lived up at East Cobb.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that's still the same. And Lake Point and Cartersville, between those two facilities, you can do that. But these kids out there, listen, they're in Atlanta this weekend. They'll be in Dallas next weekend, another big tournament. Vegas it's usually Miami, Dallas, Vegas, and usually they'll do one in LA or something like that. But This is big. It is straight AAU travel football is what it is.
Wow.
So when are all these tournaments taking place? Sorry,
Right,
I'm
right now.
so fixated
Right
on
now.
this 707.
Yeah, right now. So
Okay.
most of them will end like in the end of April because of high school spring practice in some of the southern states.
Do they pick back up in the summer, or they just say
OT7 does. Now OT7 is a huge one. I actually went down last year to watch Jared Curtis because that was the first time Jared Curtis was coming off that shoulder. I don't think people realized Jared Curtis didn't throw for like 6 months. And I was like, look, I'm gonna go down and see this kid. Yes, I'm gonna go down and see him throw. And so he came down, and some of those guys, I went down there. NFL Network showed the final Sunday.
Wow.
They showed NFL Network was there. They showed 3 games on Sunday, big time. I remember I'm sitting there, and you start hearing these kids ooh and on. And I look over at St. Thomas Aquinas, which is a great high school there. I look over and I see this car. I don't even know what it is. It's badass, whatever it was. And I start seeing these kids. They're running. They're all over this kid. And I see this guy like, back up, back up. Guy gets out. It's Jeremiah Smith. And I don't know.
Sick.
Yeah, that's when I realized how big he was. Like, holy smoked in person. Been a while since I've seen him in person. Like he's put on some good pounds up there. But I don't even know what type of vehicle he's driving. But when it's that flat,
do the doors open from the front or normal?
The side.
I couldn't tell because the people swarmed the car. You know what I mean? Yeah. But when you hear it pull in and then you see that flat black color, you're like, that's out of my tax bracket.
Okay. Hey, last 707 question, and then Drew, you got like the next 4 questions. Sorry. So my kid, for example, he's 2 years old. If he's not playing travel ball 7-on-7, is he behind the 8 ball? No. Okay. No. I tell parents this: if you want to get, and matter of fact, I won't call him out right now, but there is a recruit that I know, and I talked with his parents. They called me and I said, listen, go play 3 tournaments in the spring and just throw some reps, meet some other kids because they're going to be in your recruiting class. Go out and meet those kids, see how y'all gel. Go to 1 or 2 camps and get your butt ready for spring practice, because the most important thing you will do will be in June when you go and throw in front of Dabo Sweeney, when you go throw in front of Kirby Smart, and when you go throw in front of Josh Heupel. Because I tell people, I don't care if Kirby Smart calls me personally and says, Rusty Mansell, what do you think about that kid? He's not going to call me. He's going to say, you got a verified height and weight on him? And do y'all got a 40 time? That's it. That's all. That's all these coaches are going to call. I mean, I got a camp this weekend in Effingham County in Southeast Georgia. Nobody's going to call and say, Rusty, can that kid be in? They're going to call and say, hey, you got a verified height and weight on him? Okay, thank you. And they'll go from there. But that's kind of how it is nowadays.
Are you saying that because they're evaluating the talent based on just their processes internally? They just want to know.
Yes.
Hey, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
We speed up the process. Now, I will say Under Armour, the UC report, I think is the most valuable there is, and they film every rep. Well, what's their value? They charge universities for that tape, and 68 Power 4 schools pay a good amount of money to get that camp. And I feel like they put you in football situations. That's the reason why I have partnered with them. I take my data from MVP camps and I give it to them, and they distribute it to their customers, which I think is a great value. And that's the next thing that I started with MVP camp.
Sticking on high school football real quick, I mean, you just rattled off a ton of names of where you've been, even down in Palm Beach, Miami area with St. Thomas Aquinas. Is Buford High School's facilities really the best in the country by far?
Yes.
Carrollton's got to be pretty good too, right?
Everything together. I mean, you start talking about, I think people realize Jake's been up there too, and you have obviously, Drew, the 6 practice fields at the old middle school, all those things, you know what I mean? Like all together. You look at the high school, the stadium's unbelievable, but I think Buford, yes, it has got such a national name. Now they're national champs. Probably, I don't know that I've seen better facilities. Now Bishop Gorman out in Vegas, they don't have the stadium, but you start talking about money. And I think, Drew, they've got 11 different uniform combinations.
Oh my goodness.
With like 6 helmets. You know what I mean?
That's wild.
So it's nuts. Like they have 6 helmets, man.
That just doesn't happen in high school football. Tell me this. I've just been thinking about this as you're kind of going through everything that you do. who would you compare yourself to in a professional realm? Is it Adam Schefter? Is it Pete Thamel? Is it Kirk Herbstreit? Who do you think you compare best to as to what you do? Because, I mean, I haven't even mentioned you, and I watch you every Friday night. You and Brandon Adams do the top high school football game of the week every single Friday night on TVs across the state of Georgia. So who's your comparison?
Well, there's two different. Well, I would say my job is to be more like Adam Schefter as a newsbreaker. But I think, an insider. If you take a couple of mixtures, you take like Sal Palantonio for the Eagles. He knows what's going on with the Eagles all the time. I better know. I better know what's going on with Georgia at all times. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And you know, with Friday Night Football, here's what I have done. And a lot of people come up to me and say, "Man, I enjoy watching you just talk." I don't try to get over my skis, man. I'm not going to sit there and talk about cover 3 and those types of things. You know, I know basic defense. I know offense. I've watched enough football. I'm not going to go up there and try to be sitting there and talking and who I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the value there is too that I know the kids or know the recruitment, that kind of stuff. But me and BA have a great time with it. We both just kind of do our thing. And, you know, we've done it so much together. But I do have a part of me that still has to evaluate. And I did that ranking stuff for a long time. I'll never forget. You guys will love this. The last national meeting I sat in was my good friend Barton Simmons, who's now the general manager of Vanderbilt football. I remember Barton sitting there and arguing. He wanted Trayvon Walker #1 coming out of high school. And because we had him in Texas, and he goes, "Guys, I'm telling you his upside. This guy's a super freak, man." Wow. And we wind up going, he got outvoted. I don't know that I was on the table for Trayvon #1. I think I had him at 2. We wound up going with a guy that went to Alabama, got kicked out of Alabama, went to Colorado, got kicked out of Colorado, and but I've been in some great eval meetings. Eval meetings. I'll give you a great Jake Fromm story. I tell this one sometimes.
Oh, geez, I'm a little nervous.
So that's not too bad. Now I'll tell you this: we're in San Antonio the first day of practice. Okay.
For the Army All-American game?
All-American. This team's loaded. Jake and Tua are on the same team, right, Jake?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, same team. Having a great time, man. Great. Couldn't be more impressed with Tua. I got a great Tua story after this I can give you. But so we're sitting there the first day, and they pop out these new balls, and these damn things are slick. I mean, these damn balls, you can't hold them. The first practice, Jake throws 296 ducks, and I'm going, boys, we got to get this guy some balls. Dude. I said, my God, these things are – I swear to God, we practice that morning from like 11 to 1. And we have an hour break, and we feed them on site. Everybody else goes in. Jake Fromm takes that bag of balls, and he takes them on that track, and he scuffs them damn things up. By the time we came back to afternoon practice, Jake Fromm looked like John Elway. He and Tua were absolutely – they were just firing ropes. But I remember they going, Rusty, this is terrible. And I had no idea that we just brought out brand new balls on day 1. You know what I mean?
I've never been more embarrassed than after that first practice. I mean, like, I could not throw a football.
Tua was doing it too, but Jake, it was like knuckleballs.
I mean, I'm knocking on Adidas. I'm not trying to, but they're like Adidas footballs. They didn't do the Wilson GST. That's not the go-to high school football.
Yes.
I went to these Adidas balls, because it's their deal, and they were awful. Nobody wants to throw a brand new ball and nobody wants to throw a brand new Adidas.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Okay. It was awful. So
slick.
I tried my best to scuff them up, but what I ended up doing, I just said, I got to try something. So I started throwing with receiver gloves, and that was the only way I could find any type of grip or tack onto this football. So if you ever go back and watch, or I don't know why you ever would, but see a clip of that game, I'm in the game. I'm throwing with gloves on because that was the only thing I could grip the football.
Funny.
Yeah, well, it was all day. But Adidas took care of everybody, but the footballs were. We got out there that day on arrival day, and it was the biggest story of the week was Najee Harris. I mean, he was down to Alabama and Michigan, and nobody really knew. As a matter of fact, my Alabama people were calling the office wanting to know where Adidas paid for his plane when he leaves on Sunday because everybody was going to school.
Wow.
That's the entire week. So Tua was one of the first kids that arrived because of the Hawaiian time. He had early flight for him. He's in there. Najee comes in. As soon as Najee came in, like 40 reporters just bum rushing.
He was like a Kardashian superstar. Like it was like he was getting bombarded.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they swarmed him, and Najee looked at them dudes. He went to the elevator. He was gone. And those guys were sitting there, and I said, "Hey, look, man, that y'all didn't approach that. You know, you don't just take off after the kid." I said, "Who is he rooming with?" And they said he's rooming with Tua. And I said, "Okay, number one, he's going to Alabama."
He's going to Alabama. They were also attached at the hip.
They were attached to the hip. So I go get Tua, and great kid, Jake knows this. I go and I said, "Tua, look, man." I said, "If you will bring him downstairs, I promise you, on my name, 3 minutes in front of these guys, and I will yank his ass out of this interview, and I will make everybody leave this room." He goes, "I don't know if he'll do it." I said, "If he'll do it now, he'll get it over with, and these guys will not mess with him." And he goes, "I'll go up and talk to him." So Tua goes up. Tua comes down the elevator without him, and he goes, "You got to go get him, and you basically got to promise him." I said, "I'm on my way." I go up to the room, and I get Najee, and he's looking at me, and we kind of know each other, but we don't know each other. I said, "Najee," I said, "Listen, dude, I got you." I said, "I'll set this watch for 3 minutes, and I promise you right now, I'll grab you and we'll take it." He goes, "Yes, sir." I get him down the elevator. We come back down, and those people see me. I'm out there just like the biggest a-hole. I'm like, "You got 3 minutes to ask him questions and let this kid breathe." Once he started talking, I looked at him and I said, 250. He said, "I'm good." He went about 7 minutes.
Wow.
And then he was good for the week, but I owe Tua for going up there and kind of vouching for me to get him. But that was a fun morning. But it was good after that. But after I knew he was going with Tua, I said all these Michigan people had flown in from Detroit, all these reporters. They flew in because that. And I will say this, that Najee did have a plane to Detroit as well. He had 2 tickets.
Wow.
So that was a wild week, man.
So a cool story about that week. I built a good relationship with Chase Young. And so that's high school. We were 16, 17 years old. And then fast forward, I don't know, 7 years later, I go play for the Commanders/Redskins. And like me and Chase pick up like we never left off.
Awesome.
You know, it's like it's a cool deal. And then also, Rusty, didn't Richard get in a fight that week too?
Richard slammed Devontae Smith into he slammed Devontae Smith into the bench. And I remember I'm upstairs in a production meeting at that stadium y'all are at.
Yeah.
And they're running a drill, and Richard grabs Devontae Smith by this, and he just buries him into the sideline. And Devontae got us back 6 months later, but
yes, he did.
Damn it! But Richard just freaking power drives him, man, into the damn dirt. And I was like, oh my God! I'll tell you what. From that week, I'll never forget that. I'll tell you this, man. I left there that week, and I knew Andrew Thomas was a bad. You know what?
A dog. Yeah.
Andrew Thomas coming from Pace, and he had that stigma, small school. He's kind of quiet. You know, he didn't have this big, huge personality. That was the first year we went with the West. So we'd bring the East and West together, and we did one-on-ones. And nobody could block Chase. Or the kid that went to Miami, Jalen, he was a first rounder too, the defensive end. Jalen Phillips. Nobody could block those guys.
Wow.
Dude, Andrew Thomas came out there and he stoned. I'm talking 6 reps, 6-0, not even close. Oh, dude, I looked at Barton Simmons and I said, what else do we need to see? Like, this dude's a 5-star. You know what I mean? Like, I knew right then, like, and he wouldn't get into Georgia until June. Because of graduation. It wasn't a mid-year because it's coming from and still started. Dude, let me tell you something, man. He locked up Jalen Rivers. Like, I knew length was important on those 36-inch arms because he couldn't get around him. It was fun to watch.
That's incredible. Well, hey, we got about 6 minutes left. Let's turn our attention to 2026 and kind of preview the Dogs. Spring practice is starting here in how long? Maybe 3-4 weeks, Rusty?
March 17th.
March 17th. All right. So 2 weeks away, 2 weeks from when we are recording this. What's the outlook? I know you're one guy, Rusty, who's been saying and circling 2026 for the Georgia Bulldogs, just based on the retention, the youth and experience that this team got a year ago and how successful they were. How are you feeling in early March for this upcoming season?
A ton of guys back. You get Gunner in his second year. I think the offensive line, even losing Monroe Freeland, I think they got some really good young players there. You got some young wide receivers. Listen, They sat in those rooms and they made some big boy decisions. Do we go into the portal more at wide receiver? Or do we trust these young guys? You look at Talon Taylor, the C.J. Wileys, the Landon Roldens, all those guys. They made a decision. We trust what we see there. You got a mixture of some older guys as well. The tight end room is loaded. I know Jake knows that, but defensively, got a lot of guys back. This is what I'll say in short term. Georgia under Kirby is going to have a chance to win the national championship every year. To me, it comes down to this now, and it really does. Who's hot and who's healthy? And that's how things go. That's how things go. Can you win? Listen, Georgia's done it all. And Gunner goes and beats Alabama, and they beat Texas, and even beat Ole Miss. I say this, and people got pissed off on X. Georgia beat everybody they played. Unfortunately, they had to play a couple teams twice, but they beat everybody they got in front of at least once. So the next step for Gunner in particular is, can you win 3 in January? That's the next step. That's the next step for this team. That's the next step for Georgia. Can you win 3 in January? But I can look you in the eye, and I don't care if I'm a Georgia guy or not. They've got a roster to play the last game of the year. They got a roster to win it. It's just what happens between now and then. And they're one of those probably 6, 7, 8, 9 teams now maybe that truly starts the year and go, you know what, we can win it all.
Yeah, I really hope that this model works, especially for college football. Developing young talent, retaining that talent, and being able to have a chance, the following year after, a shortcoming or, a loss in the playoffs. Hey, how can this team get to the next level in advance, and especially in the second year under Gunner? So I'm excited about this team as well. Rusty,
time with Gunner recently, man, and he very quiet kid. And I said, Gunner.
Well, where'd you spend time with him at?
Well, we had breakfast in Rome one morning.
Yes, you did. Hey, there you go.
Hey, he was in town. I said, hey, let's go to breakfast. So we talked a lot about Raven County. But I asked Gunner, I said, what do you think about this team, man? He goes, Rusty, we got a lot different last year because people were still wondering about me. We had a lot of new kids. He goes, we just really brought in kind of what we thought we needed. Yeah. And we all stayed together. And, Georgia's built for this year. I do think that.
Yeah, I think so too. Rusty, what is one thing that you would change about the current college football model?
I think that I would reward graduating. I think that if we're going to throw around money, I think I would write a check. I think I would say, if you get a degree in 4 years, you get $100,000 bonus. And if you get a master's degree, you get a $50,000 bonus. There's got to be some incentive, man. I'm already talking to kids that Jake knows, and I would never break that trust, but there's guys out there, their NFL's over, they have no degree, and these guys are calling me wanting to work camps, I'm paying $100 on the weekend, and it's just not right, man. That we've got to incentivize the education part too, and people are going to look at this and go, well, they're getting free education. Okay, but they're also there's different things about it. These kids all think they're going to the NFL right now. Yeah. Can we give them some value? Because we're throwing around money like crazy. Mm-hmm. Give them $100,000 if you graduate on time in your 4 years, and give another $50, you get your master's. And you know what? When that kid's 28 years old, that's going to mean the world to them, because they're going to be able to walk in anywhere in the country and get a degree and get a job.
Man, I've been doing podcasting around this idea or just the thought process of NIL, transfer portal, new era of college football. And Rusty, that is the first time I've heard anybody bring up something like that, incentives tied to graduating. I commend you. I think that's a phenomenal idea. I love it. Look at you tying it all together, putting a bow on what has been an amazing episode of Punt and Pass. Our interview series continues with a very close friend of mine and an amazing guest in Rusty Mansell. You can follow him on X. He is at Rusty Mansell _. 145,000 followers on social media. The guy is a legend. Thank you so much, Rusty.
People care. That's all I can tell you.
Follow us at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at From Jake. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Rusty, thank you so much, my friend. Jake, I'll see you next week. Everybody have a great week. See ya.
Yep.